Chapter 12. The East-West Connection. A discreet cough from the waiter caught Ari's attention. He approached their table, pencil and pad ready, and stood beside Ari in the distinctive dress of the garçons in this section of Paris. Black bow tie and white shirt, black vest, and crisply starched, spotlessly white apron reaching almost to the ground. "Are monsieur and mademoiselle ready to order dinner?" "Someone else is joining us," replied Ari. He looked at his watch. "Any minute now," he added with a smile. "Oui, monsieur." He leaned over to light the candle on their table and then withdrew. They sat in silence for some time, both lost in thought. In the fading, soft glow of rosy sunset reflected from the scattered clouds overhead, the candlelight seemed to accent the outline of Nicole's delicately prominent cheekbones. "Ari, how could you keep it a secret?" she asked him at last. "What are you talking about?" "Your escape from East Germany." "Still thinking about that?" "Of course I am, and it doesn't make sense. They wouldn't let you out of West Berlin without proper identification. You had to report to the authorities to get new papers. They must have known you'd escaped. And the Sorbonne, you'd need credit for your studies in East Germany." Ari shrugged and rolled his eyes. "You're right, and I can't explain it. Somebody has incredible power, or influence, or something." "What do you mean?" "The three who arrested me made me transfer my few belongings, some valuable papers and clothes, into a police briefcase. When I got to the West, besides the 50,000 West German marks they told me were in it, there were documents that I'd never seen before. A graduation certificate from Leipzig's Karl Marx University, where I'd attended but hadn't finished, an official transcript of all my courses and grades, a West German passport in the name of Hans Müller with my picture, and a residence visa for France, also in the name of Hans Müller. So I didn't just make up that name, it was given to me." "These were official documents?" "Absolutely. They were the whole basis for my new identity in the West, and no one ever challenged them." "You still have them?" "Oh, yes. I have a French passport now, but I've kept everything I mentioned, just to make sure I hadn't gone completely crazy." "Those documents were from both sides of the Iron Curtain? Incredible." "Both sides," repeated Ari softly, with a half-smile. "At the highest levels of government and banking, there's been secret cooperation between East and West for years. In spite of the Cold War, missile crisis, threats of hot war, quarreling about the Middle East and Southeast Asia." He shook his head in disbelief. "I still can't grasp it, but the pieces are beginning to fall into place." Nicole was stunned. "What's their game, and who's playing it?" Ari shrugged. "Obviously, I don't have the whole picture. I do know that Rogers Group is one important link between East and West in a behind-the-scenes battle for a new world order and global control. With stakes that high, you can imagine the utter ruthlessness of the key players. Snuffing out innocent lives means nothing to them." Nicole sat quietly for a moment. At last she turned to search Ari's eyes pleadingly. "I have a horrible feeling. You've got to tell me the truth. Where does this student movement that you've organized fit into this whole picture?" "There's a connection." "Well, what is it?" Ari took a deep breath. "My organization is being financed to bring down the Iron Curtain and destroy communism everywhere, even in China and Albania." "That's impossible. You can't be serious." Ari leaned forward, his eyes sparkling with a sudden surge of energy. "You wouldn't believe the structure I've built with the help of 24 brilliant and dedicated men and women I trust with my life. They direct the day-to-day operations for me around the world. I've set the structure up in such a way that the CIA, the KGB, nobody can crack it. It took me 15 years to learn how to build it, cell by cell. I could make one phone call right now, and tomorrow 1 million students would take to the streets all over Eastern Europe, 3 million in China." "But to bring down the wall," Nicole protested, "in 100 years maybe." "One of the keys is Poland. After solidarity was outlawed and the Soviets were threatening to invade Poland, Reagan and the Pope entered into a secret agreement in 1982 to support solidarity and to make Poland the heart of a campaign to destroy communism." "I've never heard that," interrupted Nicole. "Where do you get this information?" "You know I can't tell you that. We work with Solidarity in Poland and with an incredible CIA Vatican network involving hundreds of Catholic priests and churches that support Solidarity. You couldn't believe what's going on." "So what have they accomplished?" Plenty. Lech Walesa is out of prison. The Pope has visited Poland and was cheered by millions. The Vatican is now working with Bush. Strikes proved that Poland can't function without solidarity, which Gorbachev admitted when he went there in '88. And now, just 2 months ago, solidarity was given full legal status. Open parliamentary elections are scheduled for next June, no doubt as to who'll be elected. The Polish communist regime and its sponsor, the Kremlin, caved in to the demands of the people, with massive secret aid from the U.S. and the active help of the Roman Catholic Church. It's the beginning of the end for communism in Eastern Europe. Ari leaned closer, his eyes narrowing. The Pope's the most powerful man in the world. I really mean it, and I don't know where that fits in. You know history. Every emperor in Europe who amounted to anything had to work with the church. Nicole looked at Ari closely. And now you think history's taking a big leap? The Berlin Wall is really coming down? It's just a matter of time, and it won't be long. Nicole shook her head, still unconvinced. What's in it for these criminal bankers? Why would they finance the demise of communism? Are you kidding? Free trade with Eastern Europe would mean billions in profits for them. And top Soviet leaders are involved? Why not? Gorbachev and his inner circle have known for years that Marxism doesn't work. They just couldn't figure out how to dismantle it without creating chaos. I happen to know that Gorbachev and the Pope have made a deal. The Soviets and the Vatican and the Americans had plans for a new world order long before Gorby wrote Perestroika. They've been working on it together for years. Nicole looked at him skeptically. Ari, you couldn't possibly have that kind of information. Look, said Ari, leaning closer again and lowering his voice, I know what I'm talking about, because the students I control are at the heart of the whole operation everywhere. Now just forget everything I said. The sunset had faded and the streetlights had turned on. Nicole sat watching the flickering candle, trying to take in what Ari had told her. I'm not ready to forget it all just yet, she said abruptly. Let's say the wall comes down and communism collapses. Then what? I'm going to do the same thing in the West, overthrow corrupt governments. Nicole reached out and put her hand on Ari's arm. My God, they won't let you do that. They'll kill you. Maybe, said Ari calmly, but I have to try. I think of the suffering in the world, the poverty and malnutrition, children dying of starvation. Doesn't that haunt you? Billions of dollars that could go for food and medication and housing being spent to stockpile weapons so horrible. Nikki, this planet is doomed unless we stop this madness. The collapse of communism is just the beginning. I'm not going to stop until the job is done. But you said they're plotting to get rid of you right now. Yeah, but they can't get along without me yet. And when the time comes, I'll survive. You're very brave, Ari, but the odds are impossible. That scares me. When I've put the whole picture together, I'm going to leave the evidence with you and a few other trusted friends. That could save your life and mine. If I turn up missing or die, even though it seems perfectly normal, that's when you reveal the evidence to the world. It would send the leaders to prison for centuries. When they know that would happen, they're not going to kill me. They sure won't let you continue, not in the West. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. By then, this thing will have gathered such momentum that nobody can stop it. Nicole stared at Ari in speechless bewilderment. This is such a shock, she finally stammered, struggling to find the words. How you could keep this a secret from me all these years. And I thought you were off lecturing, debating here and there. I do a lot of that, returned Ari quietly. It's the perfect cover for most of my travels. You lied to me again and again. Nikki, please. I had to. It was for your own good, your safety. She hesitated, looking into his eyes, then smiled and nodded. Okay, I'll accept that. But to be in partnership with the monsters you describe, how could you, Ari? Darling, I already said it's not a partnership. They put up the money, but I use it as I please. No strings attached. It's filthy money, Ari. I wouldn't touch it. He stared off into the distance for a few moments before attempting to respond. I agree with you, he said at last, turning to look her in the eye. It is filthy money, but not all of it. Maybe what I'm getting was earned legitimately. She shook her head disapprovingly. That's weak, Ari. It's all tainted. Look at me, sweetheart, he said firmly. I can't change how they get their money, but I can decide how some of it is spent. Why shouldn't I take evil money and use it for a good cause? I don't know where else I could have gotten the hundreds of millions they've given me, and without that, I wouldn't be on the verge of success today. Okay, so you're a modern Robin Hood, but on top of that, you've been spying on these drug-running, money-laundering murderers. Nicole was stupefied. Ari, they'll find out. They won't have to find out, he replied earnestly. I'm going to tell them, at the right time. It's my only salvation. I have people in their organization feeding me information, people that I'm paying with their money, and they don't know it. And when they find that out, they'll kill them and you. Sweetheart, I just explained. I'm in no danger yet. They need me, desperately. Sure, they're trying to maneuver into the position where they know enough to get along without me. That's what I have to prevent. Can you? I can, believe me. And please don't worry. I've survived this long. They both fell silent and became absorbed in watching the ebb and flow of humanity along the crowded avenue. Suddenly, Ari smiled and waved to a rapidly approaching figure. There's Abdul, he whispered. I planned to recruit him after we all had dinner and you left for the hospital. But since I've told you this much, I'll just discuss it with him now. And remember, not a word of what we've been talking about.